we're going to talk about the economy nationally and locally and what's going on. We're going to talk about an East Valley city that saw over a 1,000% increase in home building permits. Now, this is interesting. The town of Apache Junction, and moving to Arizona, Apache Junction's always been a sleepy town in the East Valley, and I don't mean any disrespect by that. It's just always been a very small town in the East Valley. They have seen a 1,058% increase in permits between January and October. They recorded 776 building permits between January and October, up from 67 in the same period a year ago, according to the Home Builders Association. The exceptions in this, they showed a decrease. The exceptions where other towns have had an increase. Florence showed a 184% increase. Glendale with a 56% jump, and Phoenix has seen a 2% increase year over year. The reason why this is important, it's the direction in the future. Buying a home is not easy, and buying a home is a big responsibility, and it's good to see that new home purchases are beginning to increase again, at least in part of the valley. J.P. Morgan says that they may see a big drop in the S&P next year. I'm just going over headlines. Signs of a weakening job market are in 5 charts saying why people are going to see a slowing of the job market. Now, that's twofold. It isn't just that if you want to change jobs, it's going to be more difficult. When there is a slowdown in the availability of jobs, everything is supply and demand. And right now, where it has been in the last years, has been a buyer's market, or a seller's market, I should say, when it comes to labor. If you have a skill set, you are in huge demand. But even if you didn't have a big skill set, if you had the willingness to learn, you are still in high demand. It was one of the things that I've mentioned to young people. My secret to success was no secret. I showed up and I was willing to do what I was asked. I showed up on time and I worked hard. That was it. Now listen, there have been markets in a different time. If I had been born in a different era, I would have really put myself in a really bad place. The mid-1980s were a big boom in America with the Reagan administration. The turning around of inflation during the Carter administration took some time. So when I entered the job market as an adult in 1985, we were seeing this massive uptick. So they were looking for people, and I happened to be a hard worker. But if it had been a different time period where it takes a skill set and it's more than just a work ethic, I could have been in trouble. And this is why I've said to young people, is a great time for you. If you find something you want to do, especially in the construction world, if you like that world, I don't care if you want to be out in the field or you want to be an estimator or a project manager for a company, when they are so looking for people, all you have to have is a willingness to work hard and learn, and they will bend over backwards to train you. I know that is a key. That is a key thing that's happening. So what will happen in the job market in the days to come? What's fascinating to me is I'm looking at some of the things, and we're going to talk more about this later, about what is controlling and changing our economy, what is affecting our economy. And a lot of this has to do with government regulation, which I've talked about. And we're going to get into, I actually have picked up the stories about environmentalism, about what's happening. And the reason why is the U.S. is decreasing its emissions. The U.S. is doing exactly what I keep saying. I believe I'm an environmentalist. I'm not an activist, but I think we should have clean air and clean water, and I think we do an excellent job in this country. You've heard me go on and on and on about the Resolution copper mine. You're not going to find a more environmentally project anywhere in the mining world, and I think that's a bold statement, but I think it backs itself up, than what they've done at the Resolution copper mine. And yet it's being held up for political reasons. And part of this is, and we're going to get into this specifically later, here we have a situation where the U.S. is doing a lot of different things with its push toward nuclear energy, which I think is the cleanest form of energy there is. But also when you compare us to the rest of the world, where China and India are seeing huge increases in CO2 emissions, ours are decreasing. And our economies is the biggest in the world, and we're decreasing ours here in the U.S. My point is, why are we not saying to the world, we do it better, so let's do it here? It still needs to be done. Let's do it here. That goes for mining as well, the push toward nuclear energy. We've witnessed this president within the last few months come to the state of Arizona and declare a national monument in a part of the state that was used for grazing, and what the point was, they were going to stop any chance of a uranium mine here in Arizona. Well, we're going to have to mine uranium. We're going to have to buy uranium. We're going to have that here in the U.S. Why are we giving those rights over to other nations like China? The other minerals that will be needed for electric power, whether it's solar power or batteries or both, whether it's the cars that are coming and how much more copper is in an electric vehicle than in a gas-powered vehicle, all of these minerals that are needed, all of the rights are being turned over to other countries. Instead of us doing it the right way here in the U.S., we are leading the world in environmentally friendly ways of doing what needs to be done to sustain humanity. And yet, this president wants to continue to turn over the rights to this to other parts of the world. And it's a detriment to our economy. I believe in the long run, it's a detriment to our national security. We are not going to get rid of fossil fuels. We just do it better. And it's time to unleash the American economy. I believe that wholeheartedly. And when the economic policies are the demonization of industry in the U.S. as if somehow they are the cause of damage and they are the bane of the existence of the U.S. and in the industrialization. And that's why I'm not a militant or an activist environmentalist. It's the idea that industry and business are the enemy of environmentalism is just not a true statement. And if you do your homework, and I hope some of you will, you'll see, and specifically I bring up Resolution Copper because 20% of the copper needs of this nation are sitting right here in Superior, Arizona. Imagine what that would do for the economy of Superior and Miami and Globe and Kearney and the surrounding areas. It would almost double or more than double the number of employees in the mining industry in Arizona. It would be a huge asset to the tax base in Arizona with money into the state coffers that can be used for great things. But most importantly, it's done in a way that leads the world in environmentally friendly ways of doing these things. We are setting the standard, and yet this project sits basically idle without producing anything, without producing any copper, because it's being held up by this administration. These are economic policies that are detrimental to the future. I don't care what party you're in. And I just think they need to be addressed.
Thanks for watching the Mike Broomhead Show. Tap to watch the first season of Amazing Arizonans, a KTAR News podcast. You can also click the button in the middle to subscribe.